Jason Schroeder over here, and Mike's taking me on a quality walk to teach me a couple of things about quality, so go ahead, my brother.
All right, on the Banner campus, we start off just by asking the owners and architects about what was important to them inside this building. Their big hot points were patient rooms, since there's 256 of them, and then their elevator lobbies. So from there, we decided to set off a kickoff meeting for what their DFOWs would be, what their critical success factors are, and then turn that into acceptance criteria so we could actually build from it.
And did we say what DFOWs were? I can't remember.
Distinguishing features of work.
All right, go ahead.
So the distinguishing features of work coupled with the critical success factors blend together. We set an acceptance criteria as DPR, subcontractors, owner, architect. Take those and then turn them into some field visuals and checklists that I have behind me in order to pass that information out to the field.
Okay, so I'll zoom in on the checklist here real quick, my brother.
So the checklist here corresponds to the visual here in order to align the subs on what the expectations are. And then at the kickoff meeting, before we do a single, before we install a single piece of work, we have a kickoff meeting with DPR and all the foremen that are responsible for that DFOW. They come through, they look at the checklist, they'll sign off saying that they acknowledge it and they understand it and that they're going to execute to these standards. And then these are kept here as a reference point for them to check back on throughout the progress of construction.
So let me see if I'm listening here. So this is what I'm hearing, is that we have to know what's important to the owner, number one, right? Number two, we have to know what we're building, so what's important to them, how is it supposed to be built, how do they want it to be built, how does the designer want it to be built,
Absolutely.
right? And then none of that's helpful unless the foreman and the workers know that, right?
Absolutely.
So that what you're saying is the acceptance criteria, that's basically the parameters or the expectations that you have to meet for them to accept the work.
Yep.
And that's what you go out and communicate. And basically you're using these maps, so you have the checklist over there and then the map over here to communicate some of the things like right here I see ceiling layout, right here I see joint layout. Basically using these maps to communicate, because if the workers don't know it, then it's not effective.
Right.
Okay, keep going. Anything else?
You about nailed it right there. So yeah, the biggest thing with the visuals is to have the one-stop shop for the guys to be able to communicate what that acceptance criteria was. On some of these you could see that we have it specifically as you need it within an 1/8 inch, or you need to have 1/4 inch zinc strips on your terrazzo or whatever it is. So it's just pulling that information from all over the place, from submittals, specs, drawings, getting that information in front of the owner and architect early enough that they can look at it and say, hey, do you like this? Do you agree with it? Because this is what's bought out and this is what the drawings are going to drive us to expect. And do you also agree with that? And they'll say yes or no. And at that point, then we can control them a little bit of saying, hey, we can go above and beyond that, but we might need to talk about a change order or something like that, or a schedule impact.
Because that's the standard right there,
Because we set this standard, so it gives us better control to prevent the wish list type items during punch time.
Very good.
To allow us to say, hey, we all agreed upon this. This is what we all put our thumbprints on that said we could do, and this is what we're building to. So.
And you told me a story as we were walking up here about people doing huddles over here. Can you mention that real quick?
Yeah, so when we saw that this process was truly working and truly caught on with the craft, was without DPR facilitating, we just happened to walk past and there was a group of subcontractors here, and they were looking at the visuals and pointing and discussing and figuring out how things needed to go together. So to me, that was when you truly knew that this process has caught on with everyone out here and that it's actually a success. Because if DPR has to be ramming this down people's throat, then it's no better than any other piece of paper that we could throw at them. But when it's just naturally happening and they're gravitating towards it, is when you know that it is actually making an impact on the guys out here.
Well, that's great. One quick thought, in some of my past projects, the architect would come out once something was installed and say, hey, that wasn't what I thought. Right now, not only do you have the meetings ahead of time, but they can walk around and say, yep, and if there's a problem, they can get it before we ever start construction.
Yep.
Anything else, Mike?
That's about it.
All right.